If you're new here, hit subscribe, because this story will take you deep into one of the most shocking betrayals in modern American law enforcement. It was a quiet Friday morning in Lauderdale County, Alabama. The kind of morning where the air feels too calm, like it's holding its breath. But at 9:41 a.m., a radio call shattered that silence. "We have an inmate and an officer missing." The inmate's name, Casey White, made every officer's stomach drop. A 6'9" convicted felon, serving 75 years for kidnapping and attempted murder. Dangerous, unpredictable, and the last person who should ever be outside those walls. But this wasn't an escape through brute force or gunfire. This was something far stranger, something that made no sense at all. The officer missing with him? Assistant Director of Corrections Vicky White. 20 years of spotless service. The one person everyone trusted the most. By noon, the jail was in chaos. Calls flew to every neighboring county. Helicopters were scrambled. The sheriff's voice shook as he told reporters, "This is not supposed to happen. She was the best we had." But as the hours turned into days, one truth became impossible to ignore. This wasn't a kidnapping. It was a plan. Carefully designed. Coldly executed. And as security footage began to surface, what they saw stunned them. Vicky White walking Casey out of the jail, calm as ever, holding a stack of papers. She tells the booking officer she's taking him for a mental health evaluation. No one questions her, because she's Vicky. Minutes later, the cruiser disappears off camera. The next time anyone sees them, they're already gone. The patrol car found abandoned in a parking lot, the two nowhere in sight. It wasn't a panic escape. It was methodical. Clean. Planned to the last detail. The FBI joined the search. The headlines exploded across the country. Veteran officer missing with inmate. Was it a kidnapping, or something else? The whole nation wanted to know, why would a respected officer throw her life away for a murderer? The answer began years earlier, inside the same jail where Casey was first held. That's where she met him. That's where it all began. At first, it was just duty, daily inmate checks, transport logs, the usual paperwork. But over time, something changed. She started giving him privileges. More time out of his cell. Private conversations. She even started calling him her person. Nobody noticed at first. Or maybe, nobody wanted to believe it. But behind those cold steel bars, a dangerous connection was forming, one that would soon lead to a nationwide manhunt and a tragic ending no one could have predicted. And when investigators finally opened her locker after she vanished, they found something that made everything clear. Her resignation letter, her house sold, and a plan that had been in motion for months. The woman everyone trusted had crossed the line. But what no one knew yet was how far she'd go to keep him free. By the third day, every law enforcement agency in America knew their names: Vicky White and Casey White. No relation. Just two people bound by something no one could explain. Posters with their faces were everywhere. The U.S. Marshals called it one of the most calculated escapes they'd ever seen. But what shocked the public more wasn't how they escaped. It was why she did it. Investigators combed through her phone records, surveillance cameras, and bank accounts. What they found painted a story of slow obsession. Vicky had sold her house just weeks earlier, claiming she wanted to retire early. But instead of putting the money into savings, she withdrew nearly $90,000 in cash. That cash would soon fund their life on the run. It wasn't just betrayal, it was premeditated. Months of planning. Every piece of her future traded for a fugitive. The two vanished without a trace. But as the days passed, sightings began to pour in. A man and a woman matching their description buying men's clothing in Tennessee. A beige Ford Edge spotted on a highway camera. Each clue was like a ghost trail, there one moment, gone the next. Meanwhile, inside the sheriff's office, disbelief turned to heartbreak. The people who'd worked beside Vicky for decades refused to accept she was guilty. "She was the one we trusted with everything," her coworkers said. "There's no way she's helping him." But deep down, everyone knew. FBI analysts pieced together a map of possible hideouts: motels, gas stations, car rentals. And with every new lead, the distance between the law and the fugitives began to close. Then, on day 10, a call came in from Evansville, Indiana, 250 miles from the jail. A car wash owner noticed something strange. A man driving a truck too small for his size. A nervous look. Surveillance footage confirmed it. It was Casey White. Law enforcement mobilized instantly. SWAT teams. Helicopters. A perimeter. By the time agents approached the motel they were hiding in, it was already too late for a peaceful surrender. Casey and Vicky jumped into their Cadillac and sped away. Police gave chase. Sirens roared. Tires screeched. The chase reached nearly 100 miles per hour. Then, suddenly, the car crashed into a ditch. Officers surrounded the wreckage, weapons drawn. When they approached, they found Casey White shouting for help, and Vicky, unresponsive, a gun by her side. The chase was over. But the mystery was not. Casey was taken into custody without resistance. And when detectives asked him what happened, his words sent chills through the room. "She didn't want to go back. She said this is the end." In a single moment, the story turned from a love-fueled escape to a national tragedy. The woman once celebrated for her loyalty had died protecting the man she risked everything for. And the question haunting America wasn't how they escaped, but what kind of love could make someone throw their entire life away. When the chase ended, America thought the story was over. But inside the small interrogation room where Casey White sat in handcuffs, the real story was only beginning. He looked calm, almost detached. A towering man, quiet but alert, like someone who had already accepted his fate. Detectives asked him the same question over and over. "Why did she help you?" And each time, his answer came out the same. "She loved me," he said softly. "And I loved her." In the hours that followed, Casey described everything. How they'd planned the escape for months. How Vicky had made sure his cell block rotation would put him near her office. How she'd purchased a getaway car under a false name. Every step was precise. She wasn't impulsive, she was organized. Driven by emotion, but controlled by calculation. The investigators listened in silence. The evidence matched his story. She'd used her access to manipulate paperwork, create fake appointments, and slowly dismantle the system from within. It wasn't a sudden decision. It was the perfect betrayal. Casey told them about the weeks leading up to that day, the long talks through the bars, the quiet promises, the fantasy of running away and starting over somewhere no one knew their names. "She said she wanted to go to the beach," he murmured. "She'd never even seen the ocean." But there was something darker beneath his words. Regret and confusion. He told them she didn't expect to live through the escape. That she'd brought the gun for herself, not for protection. And that morning, before they left, she looked at him and said, "If this goes bad, I'm not going back." When investigators replayed that chase footage, the final seconds before the crash, they could see her hand on the weapon. She'd made her choice. The news spread fast. Across the country, people tried to make sense of what had happened. How could a decorated officer fall for a dangerous criminal? Was it manipulation? Loneliness? Love twisted into delusion? Back at the jail, her former coworkers stood in silence as her photo was draped in black cloth. Some were angry. Some heartbroken. None could believe it was real. Casey White was charged again, now with escape and felony murder. He would spend the rest of his life behind bars, in a maximum security facility where no one could ever reach him again. But what lingered was something far greater than the crime itself. It was the story of trust turned into obsession, of a woman who gave everything for someone who could never give it back. At her funeral, the sheriff said one line that stayed with everyone who heard it. "She was one of us. And none of us saw it coming." And as the sun set over the quiet Alabama cemetery, one truth became clear. Sometimes, the most dangerous prison isn't made of walls or bars. It's made of the choices we can't undo. The sun was barely rising over the Tennessee border when the manhunt finally closed in. A white sedan had been spotted near an abandoned car wash. Inside, the keys still dangled from the ignition, and a faint smell of cigarette smoke lingered in the air. Officers moved quietly, scanning every shadow. They had been chasing the pair for 11 long days. And now they were cornered. A few blocks away, inside a budget motel room, Vicky White sat on the edge of the bed, her hands trembling. Her once perfect blonde hair was tangled, her police-issued weapon rested on the nightstand, and the man she had risked everything for, Casey, paced the room like a caged animal. "They'll find us," she whispered. He turned sharply, his tone colder than ever. "You said you had a plan?" he hissed. It was in that moment she realized she hadn't saved him. She'd freed a killer who only saw her as a tool. The sirens began to grow louder in the distance. The walls seemed to close in. Her badge, still in her bag, glinted faintly under the dim motel light. That badge once represented honor, duty, and loyalty. Now, it was the symbol of everything she had destroyed. "Vicky, let's go," Casey barked, grabbing the keys and the gun. They stormed out of the motel, jumped into a gray Cadillac they'd stolen earlier, and sped down the empty road. Police cruisers picked up the pursuit immediately. Tires screeched, sirens blared, and radios erupted with frantic chatter. "This is it," one officer muttered over the radio. "We've got him." The chase ripped through small-town streets, police cars closing in from every direction. A helicopter above captured it all, the final, desperate run of two fugitives who had become America's most unlikely couple. Inside the car, Vicky's breathing was shallow. "Casey, stop the car," she pleaded. But he didn't. He slammed the gas harder. Then, gunshots. Officers fired at the tires. The Cadillac swerved, smoke pouring from the wheels. They crashed into a ditch. Officers rushed in, weapons drawn. Casey was dragged out, shouting, "She made me do it!" But Vicky was slumped over in the passenger seat, her gun in her hand. She had turned it on herself before the officers reached her. Silence fell over the scene. The air felt heavy. A woman who had once been the model of professionalism had thrown it all away for a man serving life for murder. When the news broke, the entire country was stunned. Her colleagues couldn't believe it. The Lauderdale County Sheriff's Office, the very place she once worked, was now the one processing her tragic end. Later, investigators found the notes she'd left behind, love letters, plans, and a chilling confession that she'd been helping him for months. The FBI called it one of the most shocking cases of manipulation and emotional downfall ever seen.